Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's the bear, and we are reading the good word. We are in Leviticus 19 this morning. I have been continuously getting all the questions about Bear, what Bible do you use? Go to the YouTube search bar, put in Bear Independent Bible, or search my channel for Bible. Or you can go into the Shabbat playlist, which, yes, there's a Shabbat playlist. In that playlist, we start at Genesis 1, where we have videos starting in Genesis 1 and working all the way up to here, Leviticus 19. As well as there's several readings of Proverbs and Psalms and Habakkuk, who is a minor prophet, and New Testament stuff as well. So, but in that playlist is what Bible does Bear use, and I explain the scriptures at www.isrindiasierra-romeo-messianic.org. It's a blue book with silver letters. That's the one that I use. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. My Hebrews, my Shalomi homies. Good to have you guys here. We are going to get into Leviticus 19. This is, dare I say, the Old Testament version of the Sermon on the Mount. There's a lot of one-liners in here. And we're going to do a little bit of flipping today. And we're going to do flipping just to show that this stuff that we're going to hear today is not only still in play today, but it was understood by the patriarchs of our faith as well as our Messiah, and taught by the patriarchs of our faith and by our Messiah and by his apostles. Not opinion, not conjecture, right here in the Bible. I also needed a couple of words from the King Jimmy, so I busted out this is the New King James Version. This is one of my earlier Bibles. So, and I now have, I believe it's 11 different translations under this roof, and I love it. I was recently given another Bible by another brother, the Hallelujah translation. Appreciate you, man. That's awesome. And it's got, I should have got up and grabbed it, but I didn't. It's got a smaller book that comes with it with all the names in Hebrew and their pronunciation and what they mean. Which I guess was a joke because of the when speaking Hebrew. And all right, so we'll just start in Leviticus 19. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel." That right there is our first full stop. We're half of a sentence in. All the congregation of the children of Israel. This is for everybody. I have that underlined in my book. Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel. It is underlined. It has 3 stars next to it, and I have the words all the people. That's including us, written in the margin. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say to them, be set apart, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart." In fact, we'll just dive into the King Jimmy right quick. Leviticus 19. Assuming we can get our fingers on these pages. "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." Okay. You gotta understand that holy means set apart, and they both mean sanctified. It's all the same. So to be holy, when somebody says, "Oh, that thing's holy," well, If it's set apart unto the Father, then yes, it is. Which, very important that you understand. I grew up in a series of churches that said, no, only one man was ever holy. Only one man was ever righteous, brother. Wrong. Wrong. That's completely extra biblical. That is nonsense. Righteousness means doing what the Father commands you to do, which is the end of Genesis 6, the beginning of Genesis 7. And Noah did all that God commanded him, and he was righteous. That's the biblical definition of righteousness. And so, yeah, it's entirely possible for more than one man to be righteous. It's not easy, but it can be done. And then holy means set apart, meaning you're in the world, but you're not of it. We're here, but we're not partaking in all this nonsense. We set ourselves apart unto Yahweh, unto the Father. So, be set apart because he is set apart. That could be a sermon in of itself. And remember, not Pastor T, Brother T. This is not the relationship. This is the relationship. Be set apart, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. Each one of you should fear his mother and his father, and guard my Sabbaths. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Each one of you should fear his mother and his father, and guard my Sabbaths. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Who am I? Guard my Sabbaths. Remember in Exodus 20, the 10 Commandments, the fourth commandment is remember my Sabbath and keep it holy, keep it set apart. Here we are. It's Sabbath day for me, right? When I record these, it is the first thing in the morning on Saturday, Shabbat. Remember it and guard it. It is the only command that says remember these things. Do not turn to idols. Do not make for yourselves molded mighty ones. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. He's reminding us. Who said this? God. Okay? This is not the law of Moses. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe. Okay? These are the words of our Creator, and we would do well to remember that, as would the church that claims authority through the Father, yet completely blasphemes his teachings. Okay. And when you slaughter a slaughtering of peace offerings to Yahweh, slaughter it for your acceptance. Meaning it should be good with you. When you slaughter a slaughtering of peace offerings to Yahweh, slaughter it for your acceptance. I don't want your junk. If it's not good enough for you, it's not good enough for me. It is eaten the same day, you slaughter it, and on the next day, and that which is left on the third day is burned with fire. So if it is eaten at all on the third day, it is abominable. It is not accepted. Now, I want to go back just a little bit. Stick a page or a finger or something here at Leviticus 19. Let's go to 1 Peter 1:13. And if you're not sure where 1 Peter 1:13 is, it's in the New Testament, and it's not very big, and it's very easy to flip past. 1 Peter 1:13, and bear with me. There it is. It's right after James. 1 Peter 1:13. Therefore, having girded up the loins of your mind, being sober, set your expectation perfectly upon the favor that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. As obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts in your ignorance. Instead, as the one who called you is set apart, so you should also be set apart in all behavior. Because it has been written, be set apart, for I am set apart. This is a letter of Paul to Peter, who's clearly quoting Wa'ikra, Leviticus, okay? Here we are in Leviticus, Wa'ikra 19. The very first passage here. Say to them, be set apart, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. This was understood by these people in the New Testament. And we need to just continuously re-examine this concept that, well, we don't have to do those things anymore. They didn't do those things anymore. They had the grace of Yeshua, blah, 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 blah. Guys, they knew. They conducted themselves appropriately, to my understanding. They had the whole Bible approach. Because remember, at the time, they were writing letters to each other. The scriptures were the Old Testament, okay? There was no Bible. I need more coffee. All right, so anyway, there's 1 Peter 1:13. Now, okay. So then it says, I was talking about peace offerings. If it is eaten the same day, you slaughter it, and on the next day, and on that which is left on the third day is burned with fire. That's Leviticus 7:16 to 18. So you can just flip back to Leviticus 7:16 to 18. And but whatever is left of the flesh of the slaughtering on the third day is burned with fire. However, if any of the flesh of the slaughtering of his peace offerings is eaten at all on the third day, it is not accepted. It is not reckoned to him who brings it. It is unclean to him, and the being who eats of it bears his crookedness. So in fact, I'm going to just put a note right there, Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19, 5 to 8. Okay. So, we have reinforcement here. And he who eats it bears his crookedness, because he has profaned the set-apart offerings of Yahweh, and that being shall be cut off from his people. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. And do not glean your vineyard or gather every grape of your vineyard. Leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. We don't need to turn there, but you can if you want to, or just write this in the margin of your Bible. Ruth 2:2. Ruth, remember the story of Ruth. Or if you don't remember the story of Ruth, just read Ruth. It's a short story. And by the way, just when I say I make notes in the margins of my Bible, this is what I mean. I keep it full. One day, somebody other than me will possess this book, and they will flip through it, and they will get an insight into my mind and my understanding of all this. I hear people humming the Wheels on the Bus song. Good morning, Mama. Is the baby awake? Oh no, the baby's awake. She woke you up. I might have to relocate if I... Oh no, I hear it. I hear her. It's time to run. We'll do some editing right now. Okay, let's try this again. So, the story of Ruth, Leviticus 19. Yeah, we're down here by the creek. It's amazing. It's tremendous. I feel like I can actually use a little bit more of my voice out here, so that's good. Story of Ruth. Yeah, so you can go read Ruth 2:2. You don't need to flip there. And then here we go, 1911. 1911. Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. You might go check out Exodus 20. On that, do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh. More Exodus 20. We could also go Colossians 3:9, which we will. We'll do some turning. And if you're curious about where's Colossians, it's in the New Testament, and it's tiny. Colossians 3:9. Come on. Come on, fingers. Thessalonians. Colossians. There we go. It's before the Thessalonians. Colossians 3:9. Do not lie to each other, since you have put off the old man with his new practices. Yep. And have put on the new one, who is renewed in knowledge according to the likeness of him who created him. So they understood here Yeshua as Messiah as pathway back to the Father. So I have a note in here, Leviticus 19:11, here in my book next to Colossians 3:9, because they tie back and forth together. Imagine that. Who'd have thought? Okay. Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. Can you imagine? Bad neighbor. No. Hold on. There we go. Now we're at the right height. I also feel like I'm going to sneeze. So if I sneeze at any point, I apologize. Got all kinds of issues this morning. That's not good. Right there. There we go. If I sneeze, I sneeze. Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of him who is hired is not to remain with you all night until morning. Meaning pay the man. If you owe him, pay him. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind, but fear your Elohim. I am Yahweh. Do no unrighteousness in right ruling. Do not be partial to the poor or favor the face of the great, but rightly rule your neighbor in righteousness. What is righteousness? Righteousness is the doing of the law. So rightly rule your neighbor in the doing of the law. Don't favor him either A, because he's poor, or B, because he's rich. You do what's right. And so again, James 2. Let's go to James 2. Where's that? Oh, it's over here in the New Testament. It's one of them little books. We'll find it. Peter, Hebrews, more Hebrews, Titus, Philemon, not it. Come on, fingers. Timothy. Come on, fingers. Thessalonians, Colossians, Ephesians, Galatians, Corinthians, Romans. Will we find it? It's entirely possible we don't find it. Here. James. There it is. James. James is over here next to, or right after Hebrews, which is where I thought it was. I couldn't remember which side of Hebrews it was on, and then I completely missed it. Read your Bible more. Yeah, sorry. James 2. For if there should come to you in a meeting place a man with gold rings and a splendid robe, there should also come a poor one dressed in rags. And you pay attention to the one wearing the splendid robe and say to him, you sit here in a good place. Say to the poor one, you stand there, or sit here at my feet. Have you not discriminated amongst yourself and become judges with wicked thoughts? Listen, my beloved brothers, has Elohim not chosen the poor of the world, rich in belief, and heirs of the reign that he promised to those who love him? But you have shown disrespect towards the poor man. Do not the rich oppress you and drag you to the courts? So we got some more of this here in James 2. Particularly, James is talking about showing favor to the rich men, and this is in the context of the Pharisees, these people who had made a religion out of service to the Father, had adulterated the spirituality of the Father and turned it into a religion rife with the traditions, doctrines, and dogmas of man that were more or less a bunch of nonsense and had nothing to do with the word of the Most High, which is what Yeshua came to rail against. That is what he came to destroy, was the works of man interfering with his Father's word. Not his Father's word. Another story for another time. But James here is talking about how these guys would, these Pharisees, there was a tradition or a way of doing things in the temple that they'd, oh, this guy's got lots of money. We'll put him right here, right in the front row, so he has the best seat in the house. No, he said, don't discriminate against the poor. Conversely, we don't overcompensate when somebody's poor either. We help, but we don't don't go too far, right? And I think part of that there is we want to help, but we don't want to keep somebody in a less than ideal situation, right? By over helping. Another story for another time. Okay, flip back. Leviticus 19. Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahweh. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Reprove your neighbor for certain and bear no sin because of him. Don't hate him, but reprove him. Hey bro, in love, that thing you did, that was messed up. We need to work on that. Or, you know, and that could be somebody talking to me, or me talking to somebody else, or something. And there's the slightest bit of rain shower going on right now. It's very interesting. You guys probably can't see it. Luke 17:3. Yes, Luke 17:3. Like I said, this is kind of like the Old Testament Sermon on the Mount in that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of flipping, but it's worth seeing. Luke 17:3. And with that, I'm going to quit apologizing for the cross references. Luke 17:3. Take heed of yourselves. If your brother sins against you, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day comes back to you saying, I repent, you shall forgive him. Luke 17:3. This is Messiah talking. And he said to the taught ones, it is inevitable that stumbling blocks should come, but woe to him through whom they come. Meaning, yeah, stumbling blocks are going to come, but you don't be a stumbling block. This is Messiah talking. It would be better for him if a millstone was put around his neck and he were thrown into the sea than he should cause one of these little ones to stumble. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother sins against you, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. This is Messiah talking. A little guy you might have heard of named Jesus. Well, actually his name's Yeshua or Yehoshua, but whatever. So yeah, right here we have in Leviticus 19, 17, we have Luke 17:3. Do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. I'm telling you, man, it's all one-liners in here. Matthew 22:34. Yup. Or if you can just write this in the margins. You don't necessarily need to flip, but you could write these in the margins. Not Martians, margins. Gonna need more coffee. 22:34. Matthew 22:34. But the Pharisees, having heard he had silenced the Sadducees, you know why the Sadducees were you know what their issue was? They didn't believe in the resurrection, and they were sad, you see. I heard that, I don't even know where. It's almost like so punished that I should just rebuke it from my memory. Oh well. But the Pharisees, having heard that he, Yeshua, had silenced the Sadducees, were gathered together. And one of them, one learned in the Torah, did question, trying Yeshua, and saying, Teacher, which is the greatest command in the Torah? And Yeshua said to him, You shall love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your being, with all your mind. This is Deuteronomy 6:5, which is immediately after the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our God, Yahweh is one, which is Deuteronomy 6:4. Okay? This is the first and greatest command, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself, which is Wa'ikra 19:18, Leviticus 19:18. So this is Messiah rebuking the freaking legalists with his Father's word. So you should make a note right here. Levi 19:18. On these two commands hang all the Torah and the prophets. Yep. I would agree, sir, I would agree. But, again, proving the point that this stuff is not dead and gone. It is not done away with. It was not nailed to the cross. It was not. The issue that Messiah took with the legalists was how they had adulterated this word with their own traditions, their own doctrines, their own dogmas of man, and had made it impossible to keep his Father's law. And so when you hear it said that it's impossible to keep that law, it is. It is. Even the law of the Father is impossible, which is why we have a mediator of a renewed covenant, Hebrews 8:6, 8:8, 8:10. However, Yeshua rails against the Pharisees. You brood of adders, right? You freaking jerks, man. You've made it impossible. You've made it a burden to keep my Father's law. Come to me, all who are weary, all who need rest. My burden is easy, my yoke is light. All y'all who are tired of trying to jump through these legalistic hoops, my burden is easy, my yoke is light. That being the Torah. This is how you conduct yourself. Says Yahweh, says our Creator, not says Moses. This is the law of the Father handed to Moses. And we should remember that. We would do well to remember that. This wasn't like a cute idea that Moses had, okay? And Yeshua consistently rebukes the Pharisees and the Sadducees by saying, you don't know Moses, so you don't know me. Okay, Yeshua taught and expanded upon the teachings of Moses, which came straight from the Father, as we're seeing here. Okay. Leviticus 19:18, do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people, and you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. I am Yahweh. Guard my laws. Guard my laws. Period. Do not let your livestock mate with another kind. Do not sow your field with mixed seed, and do not put a garment woven of two sorts of thread upon you. Now, this is Deuteronomy 22:9. Deuteronomy Devarim 22:9. Do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seed, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. Do not put on a garment of different kinds of wool and linen together. Oh, make tassels on the four corners of the garment which you cover yourself. Yep. So, this little passage right here, the mixed seed passage, gets all kinds of hate, all kinds of misunderstanding. We're going to see within the context of Leviticus 20, which is where we're headed next, that the entire reason all of this is being taught, I am Yahweh your Elohim. The Father is constantly reestablishing his authority. This is the Father talking to you, the congregation, the children of Israel. Why? So that when you go into this land where I'm going to dispossess these people, you don't do the things that they do. You will be set apart. That's the beginning of Leviticus 19. Say to them, be set apart, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. Don't do the things that these heathens do when you get onto this land. Okay? Including these things right here. Guard my laws. Do not let your livestock mate with another kind. Do not sow your field with mixed seed. And do not put a garment woven of two sorts of thread upon you. The end. Be set apart. All of this is in the context of not doing the things that the heathens in the land that they are going to possess do. Right? So that they will visually be set apart. Physically set apart. They don't do the same things. Okay. And when a man has intercourse with a woman who is a female servant, engaged to a man, and to be ransomed, but she has not been ransomed nor set free, there should be an inquiry, but they are not put to death because she was not free. Basically saying that there's a different Torah, a different instruction for if a man has sex with a woman who is a servant, we don't kill them. There's an inquiry, but we don't kill them. I have a note right here in the margins that says, still researching, ... I haven't come to a fullness of understanding on that particular passage yet, which is okay. All things in due time. There's a part of me that anything to do with servitude, indentured servants, slaves, just gets pissed instantly. Like instantly. I don't know. So I'm still researching that. And as we've seen elsewhere in this book, the instruction is not to take slaves. The instruction is, if you end up with these people, remember that you yourself, this is in Exodus, you yourself were recently slaves. Treat them well. And here's the rules around treating them well. Don't be a-holes. So, yeah. 21. And he shall bring his guilt offering to Yahweh at the door of the tent of appointment, a ram as a guilt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering before Yahweh for his sin which he has done, he being the man who had intercourse with the woman who's a female servant. And the sin which he has sinned shall be forgiven him. And when you come into the land and have planted all kinds of trees for food. Why is all this important? And when you come into the land, this is the context that we're talking about, okay? So remember that as far as mixed garments, mixed seed, donkeys breeding with horses, or I don't even think that's possible, so forth, so on. I have a raging headache right here. It's like a face ache. This is good stuff. When you come into the land, planted all kinds of trees for food, then you shall reckon their fruit as uncircumcised. For 3 years it is as uncircumcised to you, it is not eaten, it's unclean. And in the 4th year, all its fruit is set apart, praises to Yahweh. And in the 5th year, you eat its fruit, so that it increases, it yields to you. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So when you plant fruit trees, the first 3 years, you don't eat any of the fruit, you don't take any of the fruit. Why? Because you're encouraging it. This is totally agricultural. You're encouraging it to store energy in its roots, not its fruit. Oh, no roots, no fruit. Imagine that. Okay, so that it forms good roots. The 4th year, all of its yield is set apart to Yahweh. Take that stuff to the tent of appointment. The 5th year, man, you can eat its fruit so that it increases its yield to you. Why do you do this? So that it increases its yield to you. If you eat that fruit those first few years, it's not going to have strong roots, which means it's never going to be a great producing tree. But if you don't, that's going to encourage it to put energy back into the root system. Good strong tree that increases its yield to you. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Okay. Leviticus 19:26. Do not eat meat with the blood. That's Acts 15:19 through 21. Why not? Not like we got anything better to do. Acts 15:19 through 21. We talked about this last week as well. 19, 15, or 21. I'm sorry, Acts 15:19 through 21. I know the words. Acts 15:19 through 21. Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to Elohim, but that we write to them to abstain from the defilements of idols, and from whoring, and from what is strangled, and from blood. For from ancient generations Moshe has in every city those proclaiming him, being read in the congregations every Shabbat, every Sabbath. Okay, that's the book of Acts, New Testament. Just so we're on the same page here. Do not practice divination or magic. Do not round the corner of your head, nor destroy the corner of your beard. These were particular grooming practices of the people in the land that they were going to dispossess. Do not fit in. Be peculiar. The Father says elsewhere, my people are a peculiar people. They stick out. Yeah, I've got my Zitziot on right now, my Hebrew IFF, which, you know, if you look for, you get in the habit when you're a Hebrew of looking for Zitzi. I mean, I do. And it's, I mean, for me, can I get this one off of here? For me, I'm checking belt lines anyway, like looking for bulges, that guy's carrying a weapon, blah, 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 blah. It's very nice to, I don't think I can get this one off of here. We'll try this one. Very nice to see Zitzi. Now this one is getting a little beat up. See that one? I'm losing some tassels here, man. But this is from Numbers 15. I believe it's 1537. The Zitziot. The tassels. And it's Hebrew IFF, man. When you see the tassels, you know, hey, man, that guy's a commandment keeper right there. Or that girl's a commandment keeper. Those are our people. We need to, you know, build relationships with them. Go talk with them. We need to build relationships with everybody. Talk with everybody. But it's nice when you see somebody who has the same convictions you do. All right. Coffee. Do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor put tattoo marks on you. I am Yahweh. Well, good thing that we've got the grace of Yeshua Messiah. I have a significant number of both tattoos and cuttings, which is literally another story for another time. But yeah, we don't do that. And I can tell you, at least with the cutting part of it, that there's definitely demonic influence there. Yeah, whole nother story for another time. But I mean, nor put tattoo marks on you. I am Yahweh. That sucks for me, because I'm like, man, I really want some more tattoos, and I'd love to get some like good tattoos, like tats that glorify the Father. But he says, no, you don't do that. Do not profane your daughter by making her a whore. That right there, I mean, like, I have a 12-year-old daughter. She's starting to, you know, develop as a young lady. So, somebody a while ago was describing their wife. And he said, she's got the physique of a surfboard. My daughter is going from having the physique of a surfboard to blossoming into a young woman. And as such, there's considerations there for modesty, right? And like she was wearing a pair of shorts around the house, and I said, honey, those don't leave the house. And in fact, I don't really even like them in the house. Like, those are gonna need to go away, because she's tall too. Her legs are like 12 foot long. And she just kind of gave me a look, and I poked her in the back of the leg. Just poked her. She's like, ah, what'd you do that for? I said, now imagine if that's somebody's eyes. So have you ever felt somebody just looking at you? She's like, yep. I said, well, you're coming into an age where people are going to start looking at you for less than honorable reasons. And where I poked you, their eyes are gonna poke you. Are you comfortable with that? She said, no. She went in her room, put on a pair of jeans. Bless you, honey. I love you. Thank you. Do not profane your daughter by making her a whore, so that the land does not whore and the land becomes filled with wickedness. Guard my Sabbaths and reverence my set apart place. I am Yahweh. Guard my Sabbaths. Do not turn to mediums, and do not seek after spiritists to be defiled by them. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. I gotta tell you, I know that there's some of you within the sound of my voice who have dabbled with or are currently engaged in ghost hunting, communing with spirits. You need to stop. You need to stop, and I mean this in love. You need to stop. It's dangerous. Spiritually dangerous. The strength of Yeshua Messiah and the authority over all things in heaven and earth by the Father through him to you can protect you from those things. But there's so much bad there. So much. And the other thing to understand is there's a couple things here. Number one, Hasatan, the Nachash, Satan, quotes scripture to Messiah while tempting him in the wilderness. Off the top of his head, baby. Don't think for a moment that these things won't lie to you. I'm Grandma Millie. I'm stuck in the ether and I miss my husband, John. And really, it's something that's... right? Impersonating Grandma Millie. There's nothing keeping these things from lying to you. And they will. And they do. And you need to be extremely careful with what doors you open because they're incredibly difficult to shut again. Believe me. And some of you I have discussed this with in person. And so I'm just telling you point blank, you need to stop. You need to stop. Because right here, Leviticus 19, do not turn to mediums and do not seek after spiritists to be defiled by them. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Okay? I'm saying it in love. Knock it off. Stop. Okay. Especially Ouija boards. Oh. Get rid of it. Rise up before the gray-headed, and you shall favor the face of an old man, and shall fear Yahweh. Fear your Elohim, I am Yahweh. Be honorable to your elders. Honor your elders. And when a stranger sojourns with you in your land, do not oppress him. Let the stranger who dwells among you be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim, strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Do no unrighteousness in right ruling, in measurement of length and weight, or in measuring liquids. Be fair and honest in your calculations. Have right scales, right weights, a right ephah, and a right hin. These are hin and an ephah are units of measurement. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings, and do them. I am Yahweh. Guard and do. Guard and do. Cool. Video's gonna go long. What else is new? Backstretch. Celebratory chapter ending coffee. Fabulous. All right. Leviticus 20. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, say to the children of Israel, any man of the children of Israel or of the strangers who sojourn in Israel, who gives any of his offspring to Molech, shall certainly be put to death. We talked about this last week. Offering your children to Molech. Disgusting practice back in the day. And in fact, Oki Stormchaser had very interesting anecdotal comments in that video regarding the destruction of Carthage by the Romans, I believe. And yeah, good. People like that should be destroyed. Say to the children of Israel, any man of the children of Israel, or of the stranger who sojourns in Israel, who gives any of his offspring to Molech, shall certainly be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. Stones. And I shall set my face against that man, and shall cast him off from the midst of his people, because he has given of his offspring to Molech, so as to defile my set-apart place and profane my set-apart name. The first directive we get in this book is be fruitful and multiply. Hashtag go team. Get it on, baby. Make some kids. And if the people of the land all hide their eyes from the man, doing one of these, as he gives any of his offspring to Molech, they do not kill him. If you choose to look the other way at this abomination, now he's talking to you, he's talking to me. If we choose to not look this thing head on, and we turn our head away from this abomination, then I shall set my face against that man and against his clan, and shall cut him off, and all who go whoring after him, even go whoring after Molech, from the midst of their people. And the being who turns to mediums and to spiritists to go whoring after them, I shall set my face against that being, and cut him off from the midst of his people. And you shall set yourselves apart, and shall be set apart, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall guard my laws and do them. I am Yahweh who sets you apart. The Father's making a point here. You do his things, not everybody else's things. You be set apart because he is set apart, and you do the set apart things. You don't do all this other worldly nonsense. For everyone who curses his father or mother shall certainly be put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother, his blood is on him. Now, it says here, for everyone who curses his father or his mother, and I think that that's often taken as like a speaking bad about or cursing to your father and mother, but it literally just got done talking about offering your children up to this pagan lowercase g god and dealing with spiritists and divination. I think it's talking about spiritual cursing in the context of the passage, right? Anybody, if you're setting a curse upon your father or your mother, you should be put to death. That's ridiculous. You don't curse your father or your mother. That's absurd. So, his blood is on him. And a man who commits adultery with the wife of another man, who commits adultery with the wife of his neighbor, the adulterer and the adulteress shall certainly be put to death. And the man who lies with the wife of his father has uncovered the nakedness of his father. Both of them shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them. Now we get into a long list here, starting with this in 2010 and working all the way down to 2022, where I'm just going to plow all of that because this all deals with sexual relations that are not permitted per Yahweh. But all of these things are being done in the land that they are going to possess. We are in the world, not of the world. We do not do these things. So, and a man who lies with the wife of his father has uncovered the nakedness of his father. Both of them shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And the man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall certainly be put to death. They have made confusion. Their blood is upon them. And a man who lies with a male as he lies with a woman, both of them have done an abomination. They shall certainly be put to death. Their blood is upon them. And a man who marries a woman and her mother, it is wickedness. They are burned with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness in your midst. Now, I think this is a really important time right here, just for a hot minute. I said I was going to plow these, but the Spirit has hit me. A, to throw something at these dogs that they go away. Hey! Go lay down. And B, every one of us should be thankful every day for salvation through Yeshua Messiah. Because every one of us has sinned. And the wages of those sin is death, as we can see right here. Okay? We all have failed and fallen short of the glory of the Most High. Thank you for Yeshua, that we're not on the hook for our actions, okay? Absolutely. This does not mean that we go kill the adulterer, that we go kill the homosexual, that we go kill the guy who slept with his daughter-in-law. That's not what this means. This means that doing these actions is a sin. It is, and sin is 1 John 3:4, transgression of the law. It does not mean that we go stone them to death. What it means is that they are deserving of death. If they believe in Messiah and they repent of their sin, that sin is removed from them as far as the east is from the west. Non-issue. Non-issue. In the eyes of the Most High, it's a non-issue. And I think there's a lot of times, there's a huge struggle between the worldly and the otherworldly. Because to the Father, it's non-issue anymore. That's been taken care of. But for us, we're like, how could this not be an issue? You slept with my wife. I want to kill you. I'm going to stone you to death. Right? There's a disconnect there for sure. Because we are petty and foolish and short-sighted. And we get hurt. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't get hurt. But through Messiah, there's a way. There has been a way made for all of this to be redeemed. So just get that straight. I'm not advocating that we do harm to anybody. So, okay. And a man who marries a woman and her mother, it is wickedness. They are burned with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness in your midst. And a man who has intercourse with a beast, he shall certainly be put to death, and the beast you kill. And a woman who approaches any beast and mates with it, you shall kill the woman and the beast. They shall certainly be put to death, their blood is upon them. And a man who takes his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, is it loving commitment? And they shall be cut off before the eyes of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness, he bears his crookedness. And a man who lies with the woman during her sickness and uncovers her nakedness, he has laid bare her flow, and she has uncovered the flow of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from the midst of their people. And do not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, nor your father's sister, for that is laying bare one's own flesh. They bear their crookedness. You will suffer the consequences. Bearing your crookedness means you will suffer the consequences. And a man who lies with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They bear their sin and die childless. Ooh. And a man who takes his brother's wife, it is uncleanness. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They are childless. And you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to dwell does not vomit you out. What is the context of all of this? You should put a big star right next to that. Where'd my pen go? Right here, right here, right here. And you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to dwell does not vomit you out. And do not walk in the laws of the nation which I am driving out before you, for they do all these, and therefore I loathed them. But I say to you, you are going to possess their land, and I myself give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who has separated you from the people. And you shall make a distinction between clean and unclean beasts, and between unclean and clean birds, and do not make yourselves abominable by beast or by bird or whatever creeps on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. Leviticus 11, meaning that you're going to go in here, you eat what I told you to eat. Remember that. You eat what I told you to eat. And you shall be set apart to me, for I, Yahweh, am set apart, have separated you from the peoples to be mine. And a man or a woman in whom there is a medium, or who there are spiritists, shall certainly be put to death. They are to stone them with stones, their blood is upon them. And that is the end of 20. So 3 times between 19 and 20, we have this admonition of no mediums, no spirits. Elsewhere it said, or in different translations, you shall not suffer a witch to live. I'm saying this because I know that there's some of you watching. Please stop. Please stop. And when you stop, I guarantee you things are going to get sideways in your life. Absolutely. Strange, inexplicable, unbelievable things are going to happen. And that means you're on the right path. And a lot of it's probably going to be evil. You just pray to the Father for cover. But you got to stop, and you need to repent of that to the Father. Believe me, I've done it. You need to shed all of that and get away from all of that. There is not a thing that exists that does not fall under the authority of the Most High. Okay? You want to play with spirits, play with the Ruach HaKodesh. You want to see amazing things, see the hand of the Father. Right? You want to know power and authority? Welcome to Messiah. You need to get away from all these other things. You think something flying across the room is awesome? Lights flickering is awesome? How about healing the blind and the lame? How about removing the guilt that's crushing your soul right now? How about saving the entirety of human existence? How about filling you up with power and authority that you can wield so effectively as to change the trajectory of one's life, yourself or somebody else's? Spirits. And I know that there will be attacks because of this. I know it. On me and on everybody else. Don't care. I rebuke it all in the name of Yeshua Messiah. Come at me, bro. You got nothing. I know that there will be attacks, but spirits are just second-class citizens compared to the power and authority of our Creator. Don't do it. I'm begging you, stop. Please stop. And in fact, the next time I see you, we're going to have this conversation face to face. So, what is our takeaway in Leviticus 19 and 20? Well, first and foremost, we can see that these concepts, Old Testament concepts, were not just understood, but they were taught and revered by Messiah himself and his taught ones, his apostles. I've been saying that from jump, but I want you guys to see it in your own book, flipping back and forth. Number two, Yahweh sets us apart. The Father sets us apart. We are to be in the world, not of the world. We do not do the worldly things. We don't do it. It's an abomination. We profane his name. We do not act the way the world acts. We are to be a peculiar people. We are to be set apart. And with that, it's extremely important, getting back to the Hebrew IFF, identification, friend or foe, the Zitzi, when you set yourself apart, there can oftentimes be loneliness that comes with that, because you need fellowship. You need people to hang out with. If you find anybody that's like-minded, you need to hang out with them. You need to take the time to build context with them. You need to do the things. You need to forge those relationships, because we're being set apart for a reason. There is an appointed time for us. And I don't mean that with any kind of bravado. What I mean is that the Father is doing this for a reason, like he does all things. He is sanctifying and setting apart people for a reason, and we need to coalesce. These things, and this is, but just understand this, these are not nearly as forceful and effective as this is, okay? These are, I can poke you. I can really get some work done with this. We need to do this, okay? And understand that if you have this conviction, you have this whole Bible conviction, if you believe in Yeshua Messiah, right? If you believe on his name and you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, with everything you've got, and you have a conviction to do these commands to the best of your broken ability, there's a reason for that. That's not an accident. And I get this question oftentimes, well, why did you choose to do that? I didn't choose to. This would be so much easier for me, lifetime, like as far as being in the world, easier to not keep Torah. Not that keeping Torah is hard, but the difficulty is with interfacing with the rest of the world because we're set apart. Oh, sundown Friday, you don't handle money? Yeah, sorry, bro, because it says so in the Bible. What do you mean you can't party on Saturday? Well, it's not Saturday, it's Shabbat, right? You don't eat pork? Yeah, because it ain't food. Well, right? So it would be easier for me to not do any of this, according to the world, but it is so spiritually fulfilling, and it's for a reason. The Father doesn't do anything by coincidence. This is all for a reason. So if you find yourself here with this conviction to do this thing, good. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. And I would be asking the Father, why? What am I supposed to be doing for you? Literally that prayer. Father, what am I supposed to be doing for you? I have prayed that prayer many a time, and it has resulted in us doing this each week. It has resulted in us leading teams of people in Florida. It has resulted in me going up and talking to people that I've never met before and just having them absolutely melt. How did you know? Lay a hand on somebody and say, hey, I need to pray for you. What? I said, yeah, listen, this isn't gonna make any sense, but the breast cancer is gonna be fine. And they're like, what? Like, yeah. How did you know? I didn't. He does. We're being sanctified for a reason. Honor that reason and talk to the Father. What do you need me to do today? What's your thing for me to do today? And then do it. Guard his commands. Do his things. Guard and do. Guard and do. Guard and do. Shalom and blessings, y'all. We love you guys, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to meet with you guys each week and do this. And I pray you just have an awesome week. Shalom.